Alright, Chavra, let's get started. We're holding here Yud Bet Amud Bet, 12b in Hamesechta Taanit, and we're going to learn today about the idea of borrowing a fast day. What do I mean borrowing a fast day? So I'll give you an example, okay? A person accepted that he's going to fast on a certain day, okay? The day comes that he's supposed to fast, and then there's some pressing reason he can't fast on that day, or he doesn't want to fast on that day. Is he allowed to say, I'll take today and eat, and I'll fast tomorrow instead? So what do you think? Why not? You're saying he could?
Yeah, he could.
Well, because he accepted to fast on that day.
Yeah, but something happened. It's not like you say, okay, I accept that, but I will change that
doing
day to another day
trader.
because
It's a trade.
yeah,
It's a trade.
have some emergency or whatever.
So really what it should come down to, and we'll see, this is going to be the discussion, is that day locked in, dafka, or is it more like an example? But you could do another example. Okay, it's not the worst thing.
If it's a regular fast, you can do.
So public fast days you're not allowed to
But
do,
if
correct.
it's a private
Fasting.
I guess you could have
So let's see this inside. Very interesting. There's going to be two versions of a debate Rav and Shmuel, or a discussion Rav and Shmuel, and then we'll see in the Halacha it really depends on how he accepted the fast in the beginning. We're going to see, depending on the level of specificity, how dafka it was, he will or will not be allowed to borrow, as we're saying, trade. So let's see. Everybody look inside. Yud Bet Amud Bet. We're holding Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav. Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav is about 10-12 lines from the top of the page. You see Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav? You got it over here? It's about here somewhere. Yes, Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav. Right there. Amar of Yehuda. You see? Right there. Amar. Says the Gemara, Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav. Now Rav Yehuda studied first by the great Amora Rav, and then he went afterwards to study by another great Amora Shmuel. So very often he would say something in the name of his first Rebbe, and then he would go repeat it in front of Shmuel, and Shmuel would say, I agree or I disagree, because Rav and Shmuel were bar plukta. They used to argue with each other. So the first version goes like this. Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda Amar Rav says, Loveh Adam Taanito, a person can borrow his fast day, uporeya, and pay it back. Now what does it mean? This is a terminology. What do you mean? It means face value. He accepted to fast on a certain day. He doesn't want to fast on that day. He can borrow that day and eat on that day, and then pay it back a different day. Okay, so Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Rav Yehuda said in the name of his Rebbe Rav, you could borrow, no problem. You could do a trade. Ki amrita kamei de Shmuel, and Rav Yehuda said, when I said over this psak of Rav in front of Shmuel, Amar li, Shmuel said to me, V'chi neder kibel alei? Did he accept a neder on himself? You see, when you accept a neder, you have to fulfill. Did he accept a neder? And we're going to learn like simple pshat like Rashi. De lo sagi, de lo mishalem, that it's not enough if he doesn't pay it back. He accepted to pain himself. To pain himself, he accepted on himself. If he is able to, matzi means it's found, but it means if he's able to, he afflicts himself, he pains himself, he fasts. Ilo matzi, and if he's not able to, lo mitzaer nafshe, he doesn't have to pain himself. So what's Shmuel seem to be arguing on Rav? Shmuel is saying, if he accepted to fast on a certain day, and he can't do it on that day, why? It's too hard, whatever, come up with a good reason. We'll see specific reasons in the Halacha. Whatever it is. He doesn't have to make it up. He didn't accept a neder, says Shmuel. That's not a binding contract that he has to keep. So if he can do it on that day, do it on that day. If he can't do it on that day, forget about payback. You don't have to pay back. So that's the point. Shmuel's saying to Rav, when he accepted a fast on himself, you're assuming it's like a neder that he accepted. So if you can't pay it back today, you pay it back tomorrow. That's what Rav seemed to be saying. Shmuel says, no. That's not a neder. And therefore, if he could fast on the day that he accepted to fast, do it right. If you can't, it's not lovo poreya that you borrow and trade and then do it a different day. You don't have to do it, and that's that. Very interesting. The first, according to the first version we're saying now, is Shmuel's opinion seems to be, you accepted to do a personal fast day. If you could do it on the day you accepted, do it. If you can't do it on the day you accepted, you don't have to. And Rav is being machmir. He's saying, no, you could trade it, but you always have to make it up. You can't just give it up altogether. What do you think makes more sense? What do you think?
No, I'm looking at it. If you're looking at it as a neder, then you have to do it, turn it to another day or something. But if it's not
Shmuel's saying it's not a neder.
If it's not a neder,
Not a neder. We don't look at it as a neder. He accepted to pain himself. If he could pain himself on that day, meaning fast, good. If he can't, that's it. He doesn't have to make it up.
Very lenient.
Okay, that's how Rashi explains. Now Tosafot explains a little bit differently. I want to finish the sugya, and then we'll see. Tosafot explains a little bit differently. Actually, he explains that Shmuel is machmir. Maybe we'll get to that after. So far we have version number 1 where Rav says you're allowed to trade, which means you accepted to fast. Let's just make up a case so that it becomes more clear. He accepted to fast on Monday. He can't fast on Monday, or he doesn't want to fast on Monday. Says Rav, lovo poreya, meaning you can trade it for another day. Says Shmuel, it's not a neder. You're not bound to it. You accepted to pain yourself. But if you can't do it on that day, you're exempt. You're patur. You don't have to make it up altogether. Okay? That's version number 1. Now there's another version of this conversation. There was another way that this conversation, Rav and Shmuel, was brought down. Rav Yudam Rav said, same halacha. Adam Taanito uporeya. So again, Rav Yudam Rav said, if he accepted to fast on a certain day, he can borrow that day and pay it back. Meaning, he can push it off to another day when he's going to fulfill that acceptance or that pledge to fast. That's the same psak. Rav is the same shita. Okay? And then Rav Yehuda continued, and this is different. Ki amrita kamei de Shmuel. When I said this over in front of Shmuel, Amar li, Shmuel said back, Pshita. That's obvious what you're saying. Meaning, I agree with you, but it's obvious. It's not a chidush that you're saying. Because lo yehei el a neder. It's only like a neder. Means Shmuel here is saying, this is only like a neder. The way the Mefarshim explain is like this. If you pledge to give $500, and is it this $500 you have to give? You give any $500. So in this version, Shmuel's turning back to Rav and he's saying like a neder of tzedakah. He's saying, you pledged a fast day. It's like a neder, just like a neder, like a pledge of tzedakah. Neder mi lo matzi bayi l'shlume umezel. Neder, when it comes to a neder, a pledge, milo matzi ba'i l'shlume umeza l'machar l'yom acharina. Just as a neder, are you not able, lo matzi ba'i, is it not found if he wants, l'shlume to pay it back, umezel and push it l'machar tomorrow l'yom acharina or to another day. Meaning in this version, Shmuel is supporting Rav. He says, of course, I agree with what you're saying. It's obvious. When you accept a fast on yourself, you're not bound to that specific day. So if you can't do it on that day, pshita, you do it on a different day. It's like this kind of a neder that's interchangeable. So in the first version, Shmuel is arguing. Shmuel is saying, you didn't accept a neder. And therefore, if you can't do it on that day, you don't have to do it. The second version, Shmuel is saying, Pashut, it's like a neder, meaning you don't have to give this money, you give a different money for tzedakah. You don't have to fast on this day, fast on a different day. So in the second version, Shmuel is actually supporting Rav. He agrees with the psak of Rav. So in the Maskana, if you go to the second version, it seems like this is allowed. This idea of borrowing, changing, right? Good. Now, if we take a look at Tosafot, we're going to look at Tosafot briefly. De'i. Look at Tosafot De'i. See that Tosafot De'i? De'i. Tosafot learns differently. Okay? Tosafot learns Shmuel in a different way. Listen to what he says. De'i, he has a different girsa in the Gemara. Look at the girsa that he has in Shmuel. This is the first version. The matzi, again, according to Rashi, Shmuel was being lenient. He was saying, if you could fast on that day, fast on that day. If you can't, in the first version, Shmuel was saying, you don't have to fast. Right? You didn't accept a binding contract. You don't have to fast. So Safotskir says as follows: matzi mitzar nafshei. If he's able to pain himself on that day and fast, avid, he does. Ilo matzi mitzar nafshei, and if he's not able to, lo avid. So then he doesn't. And Tosafot says like this: Mishum hachi ka'amar Shmuel. Therefore, Shmuel is saying delovet ta'anito uporeya, or some say mashma to change the girsa. Shmuel means to say delovet ta'anito uporeya. This idea of borrowing a fast day, dafka, it's only hechi delo matzi mitzaer nafshei, where he can't pain himself on that day. Meaning, he accepted to fast on Monday. Whatever the reason is, he can't fast on Monday. It's too much suffering, he can't do it. In such a case, Shmuel would be saying, you could push that off to another day. Aval hechi de matzi mitzaer nafshei, but where he could fast on that day, meaning where the day that he had accepted originally, he is able to. He's just not so interested. In that case, lo matzi lilvot ta'anito, he would not be allowed to push it off, and rachi maskana, and that would be the conclusion. Now, the way that Tosafot is saying, it seems to be, Shmuel in the first version would be saying as follows. Not like Rashi was explaining. Rashi was explaining that Shmuel is being lenient. You understood? What was Rashi saying? Rav was saying you could push it off to another day. Shmuel was saying either you fast on that day or you don't fast. Tosafot says no, that's not what Shmuel is saying. Shmuel is saying the only way you're able to push it off if you're totally unable to fast on that day. But if you are able to fast on that day,
what's making it?
Meaning, if you are able to, you have to fast on that day. So now Shmuel's the machmir. I want to point this out. Now he's being strict over Rav, because Rav seems to be saying, you push it off. Shmuel is saying, only if you're totally unable to. But if you're not totally unable to, you're not allowed to push it off. So now the way Tosafot is learning, Shmuel's being machmir. If you're able to fast on that day. If you're not able to fast, not like Rashi, that you don't have to fast at all, then you could push it off to another day. But actually now, Shmuel is the Machmir Shita. I just wanted to point that out. Very interesting. Yeah.
So the reason that he said that you don't have to is because you broke your vow.
Like Rashi? Like Rashi?
No,
Tosafot is saying you could push it off, but you'd still have to make it up. The point is, you're only allowed to push it off if you're totally unable to. But if you're not unable to, it's not voluntary. You keep that day. Now he's arguing over Rav, because Rav seems to be saying, you could push it off. Shmuel would be saying then, you'd only have an excuse to push it off if you can't. Oh, very good. So we'll see in Halacha. We'll get to this soon. What's a good reason to even entertain pushing off? Meaning, face value, you'll say, I accepted to fast on Monday. What gives me the right to decide I'm going to fast on Tuesday? But so if it's sakana, it's pashut, you can push it off. That's not even a question. But what's a valid excuse? So we'll see in Halacha what's a valid reason to use this leniency. And what type of fast are you allowed to also? We'll get there soon.
But my question is, like, for example, I don't fast. Because I didn't want to.
When do you not fast?
I did the vow, or I declare I want to fast
Monday.
Whatever, yeah.
Monday.
And I didn't do it.
You didn't do it. You're chayav to do it though.
So according to this,
So Rav says you could push it off.
According to the new Tosafot Shmuel, what was like his opponent?
Wait, Rav says you can push it off. The way Rashi learns Shmuel is,
I understand.
if you push it off, you don't do it in the first version. Tosafot is saying no, you could only push it off if you're not able to. But if you're able to, you have to do it on that day.
What happened if you didn't do it according to Shmuel?
Well, then you broke your word. You know that you broke your word. Okay, meaning you did the wrong thing. The wrong thing. You did the wrong thing. It's not right. It says you have to guard your mouth. You gotta do the right thing. Let's finish up to the Mishnah before we see the halacha, because very interesting. We're gonna have to go through the variables here. What does it mean you're not able to? What's a good reason to break it? And B, what type of fast are you allowed to do this? Like Yosef pointed out, you can't do this with Taanit Tzibur. If it's Tisha B'Av, you can't just say, I don't feel like it today. It doesn't work that way. So we'll see. Let's finish up here. The Gemara tells us a story. Rav Yeshua Breder of Idi Ikla Lebe Rav Asi. Rav Yeshua, the son of Rav Idi, went up to the house of Rav Asi. Avdulei Eglat Tilta. They made him Eglat Tilta. Means they had Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Rav Idi, a great Torah scholar, a great Talmid Chacham. They wanted to give him a good meal. Okay, so they didn't have hot dogs. So instead, they made him what's called Eglat Tilta. What is Eglat Tilta? Igla is Egel. And what's Tilta? Lashon Shalosh. Taf and Shin are interchangeable in Aramaic. So Tilta, it means Egel Shalosh, or Shlishiyah. What does it mean? A third calf. What do you mean a third calf? So some Mefarshim learn the third calf born to his mother. Some Mefarshim learn a calf that is the third of its development. However you learn though, this was considered a great delicacy. It was like the best steak. Whatever what the pshat is, I don't know. Go search in the cookbooks. Why the third to its mother, the third of its development, I don't know why. But they made him a great steak, Iglat Tilta, wonderful steak. So Amrulei, they said to Rav Yoshua Breder Avidi, Lit'o marmidi, taste something. Please, do me a favor, take the big ziti. So Amrulei, so Rav Yoshua Breder Avidi said back, I can't. B'ta'anita yativna, I am sitting in a fast day. Meaning, I have a fast right now. I accepted a fast on myself, so I can't eat. I appreciate it, todah haba, but I'm not allowed to eat it. Amrulei, so they said back, I don't understand. We just finished off Shmuel Paskin in the second version, the Maskana, we said, now what's the halacha? You could push it off. So look, you have a great meal today. Tomorrow, you're going to be back to cereal and milk. So why not break the fast, borrow the fast for tomorrow, and fast tomorrow? Velozifmar, borrow it, vilipara, and then pay it back tomorrow. Meaning that's a solution. Lo savar mar. Do you not agree? Lahada amar Rav Yehuda amar Rav, like Rav Yehuda amar Rav said, Lo ve'adam ta'anito poreya, that a person can borrow the day and then pay it back. So they said to Rav Yeshua Breder Avidi, look, you have a good opportunity, eat the meal and then fast tomorrow.
That's not a good excuse based on the other.
Well. According to the second version, everybody agreed you could push it off. In the first version we said not, but in the second version we said, according to Shmuel and according to Rav, you could push it off. So they said, don't you paskin like that? Push it off. Amar Lahu, so he said back, it's true. With a regular fast day, I would do that. But this is unique. Taanit Chalom Hu. This is what's called Taanit Chalom. What is Taanit Chalom? A fast because of a bad dream. So there is halacha like this. It's discussed at length in Hamesechta Brachot. If a person has a very bad dream, and it makes him very shooken up, very scared, and he's worried that maybe min hashamayim, we know a dream is a little bit of a nevuah. Gemara tells us a little bit of a nevuah, a little bit of a prophecy or sight into the future. So he's scared, maybe this means he's going to get punished for something. So in order to comfort himself, he accepts on himself a fast day, and that acts as a kapara to protect him so that he shouldn't get punished. That's called Taanit Chalom. Okay? Fast for a dream. So he said, the reason I'm fasting today is because I had a very bad dream, and this is a protection for me. For Amar Rabba Bar Mechasya, and Rabba Bar Mechasya Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria Amar Rav, and it was said Rabba Bar Mechasya in the name of Rav Chama Bar Guria in the name of Rav, Yafet Ta'anit Lechalom, fasting for a bad dream is good, is effective, is going to be a solution. Ke'esh L'Na'oret. Na'oret is like the bad part of the flax. It's like the material that comes out of the flax. It's like a fire when it consumes the flax. meaning it burns it. It's a very flammable material. It burns very quickly. So if you fast after having a bad dream, it's like fire consuming flammable material, meaning it burns it up right away. All of the bad effects are taken off. However, the Amar of Chizda, but Rav Chizda says, when do you have to fast? Ubo bayom. It has to be on the day you had that bad dream. So therefore, Rav Yeshua Bar Rav Idi was saying, he was excusing himself. He says, I appreciate the meal, but I had a bad dream. I need to fast to ward off the bad dream because it made me very scared. And the halacha is, in order to make an effective fast, it has to be on that day. So I can't break it and pay it off tomorrow. And the Gemara finishes off an amazing thing. For Amar of Yosef, and Rav Yosef even added on to that, ve'afilu b'Shabbat, even on Shabbat. Meaning if somebody has a bad dream on Shabbat, he is even allowed to take away oneg Shabbat and fast over Shabbat to ward off the effects of that bad dream. I saw some of the Mefarshim speak out. How are you allowed to? There's a mitzvah of oneg Shabbat. Oneg Shabbat means enjoying Shabbat. You eat your cholent, you eat your chamin, you enjoy. So how are you allowed to fast? So you need it for this solution, but still, some of the Mefarshim say because that becomes his oneg Shabbat. He feels so suffering, he feels so bad about what the dream that he had, for him to fast is oneg. But the Gemara says, nonetheless, even though that's true, and you need to fast to break the bad decree or the bad dream, it's still something wrong. Because still, you're fasting on Shabbat when you're supposed to enjoy. So the Gemara says, Mai takante, what's the solution? Since you fasted on Shabbat, which is really not the right thing to do, what are you supposed to do? Leitiv ta'anita leta'anita. He should keep another fast for his fast. Meaning to say, he needed to fast on Shabbat because he had a bad dream. Taanit chalom. But at the same time, you fasted on a day that you're not allowed to fast, really. So as a kapara for fasting on Shabbat, he has to fast another day after Shabbat as an atonement for fasting on Shabbat. He fasts on Shabbat, and he fasts again to make up for fasting on Shabbat. It's like when you talk about the side effects of medication. He needed the medication to fast on Shabbat. He needed to, so we did. But still, the side effect is you're not supposed to fast on Shabbat. Fasts again the next day.
Next day is going to be a Yom Tov, then he have another.
Then he has a double issue. Fine, he pushes it up. So the kitzur, the point is, we're saying is you could borrow a fast day, but Rav Shua Bar Rav Idi was saying you can't borrow a fast day when it comes to Taanit Chalom because there to break the bad decree or the bad effect, you need to fast on that day, and therefore I can't eat your meal today and borrow for another day. Good? Good. Okay, that's the Gemara. And just to go over, so it comes out from this Gemara. In the first version we have this Machloket Rav and Shmuel. Are you allowed to borrow? Well, so hold on, we have to see. We're going to get through that soon. But Rav saying, Rav Yehuda quoted Rav as saying, you could push it off. Shmuel said, once you push it off, let's go with Rashi. It's it, you don't have to make it up. The second version, they both agree that if you push it off, you could push it off to another day because it's like a voluntary acceptance, push it off to another day. And we're saying in this story, the one exception to that is if it's Taanit Chalom, you're not allowed to push that off because you need the effect of that day. So that's apparently the effect that's necessary. Okay.
But the Taanit Chalom, you don't have to declare it, no?
You do. You accept it on yourself. I mean, you do the next morning. Yeah. I mean, regardless, you still have to. You keep it that day, right?
You woke up, but you didn't do it in Mincha.
Right. It could be. Yeah. But this is unique. This is like it's like medicine. Like medicine. That's what it is.
You have a bad dream and you wake up and okay, I'm not eating the entire day because of this dream.
Right. Okay, Chevra, let's take a quick peek. I want to take a quick peek at the Halacha. If you want to go grab 2 Mishnah Berurah Chelek Vav, please. Chelek Vav. We'll go through it. Okay. The Gemara? What do you mean?
When you want to see, you learn something and you see the Halacha.
Yeah.
You go to Mishnah.
You look at the Shulchan Aruch, exactly. This is Shulchan Aruch and this is Mishnah Berurah, but there's other Sfarim like Yakut Yosef also that we could take a look at and gives us the maskana. What's the psak? What comes out the maaseh? Right? Okay. Yeah.
You know, with all the Taanit, the people reading the Mashiach gonna come.
No question.
You see how many times they finish the
Well, no, that's for you. I said I don't know where.
I'm gonna open it. Tafkuf Samachet. Tafkuf Samachet Seif Bet. That's what we're going to look at today. Here, Eliezer. Akasha. Tafkuf Samachet Seif Bet.
all the Taanit, the people reading.
Baruch Hashem.
The Mashiach gonna come. You see how many times they finish it?
Yeah, Akasha. Seif Bet here. Okay, so we're going to look at over here is this halacha, this idea of borrowing a fast day, trading a fast day, meaning you accepted to fast on a certain day, and now you want to push it off, or we'll see. There's a reason to push it off. So we saw in the Gemara there seems to be two opinions about this, at least in the first version. Rav said that you could, Shmuel said is if you push it off, it's it doesn't exist anymore. Let's point to Rashi. The second version, they both agreed you could push it off. Now let's see the halacha. Seif Bet. So the Shulchan Aruch tells us as follows. Hanoder latzum 10 yamim be'eze yom sheyirtzeh. A person accepted, he pledged to fast 10 days be'eze yom sheyirtzeh. Now, be'eze yom sheyirtzeh is very specific language here. It means any 10 days. Okay? So later, at Mincha, someday he'll say, tomorrow I'm going to fast one of those 10 days. Any of these 10 days. He was fasting on one of those days. Okay, now, he needed for a dvar mitzvah. We'll see in the Mishnah Berurah, Dvar Mitzvah maybe means there was a Brit Milah, maybe there was Hamesechta. There was a good reason to eat, okay? A mitzvah. O mipnei kvod adam gadol, okay? The honor of a great person. Okay, a great person came to town, they made a meal for him, and to not eat would be bizayon, something like that. O shemitzta'er, now some add in the brackets here, or he's suffering. Okay, now this probably is the one that would probably, for us, you're suffering on a fast day. Hareze loveh uporea yom acher. Says the Shulchan Aruch, he could borrow it, eat on that day, and then pay it off a different day. Why? Shehare lo kava yamim b'tchilat haneder. It's very important because he didn't establish that specific day at the time of the neder in the beginning. What does it mean? He originally accepted, I'm going to fast 10 days this year, let's say. Later, at Mincha, Erev, Sunday afternoon, tomorrow I'm going to fast. But since the original neder didn't say Monday of that day is able to be exchanged for one of these reasons. By the way, it has to be for a reason still. It can't be stam. Mitzta'er, but it has to be at least something. You can't just be, I don't feel like it today. It has to be at least mitzta'er, like we're saying. Aval im lo kibel av kodem lachen. But says the Shulchan Aruch, if he didn't accept it, leitanot yom echad, he didn't accept to fast one day, meaning any day. Ela b'mincha kibel alav leitanot lemachar. Rather, he accepted at Mincha, not that he had said 10 days a prior time, but the beginning of the neder, he said, tomorrow I'm going to fast at Mincha. He said it at Mincha, I'm going to fast tomorrow. Mikre Taanit zeh. That's like saying this fast day. It's a specific Kabbalah. Ve'eno yachol ilvoto, and the Shulchan Aruch says, then you cannot exchange it. Now we'll see, there's going to be an explanation on this from the footnotes in the Dirshu, we'll get to in a minute. What's really the difference? We'll see that soon. Says the Rama, because shekin yom zeh mamash, Certainly, if he says this day actually, meaning Shulchan Aruch is saying where he accepted at Mincha, tomorrow I'm going to fast. But if he actually said this day I'm going to fast, he made a very specific Kabbalah. Kigon she'amar betchilat nidro, for example, where at the beginning of his neder he said etaneh yom ploni, and he said I'm going to fast the coming Sunday, whatever it is. That's a specific Kabbalah from the beginning. Oh, etaneh sheni v'chamishi kol hashana. Or if he says this year I'm going to fast every Monday, every Monday, Thursday. So now that's a very specific type of Kabbalah, or anything similar. And therefore, there you cannot exchange it because you accepted a particular day from the beginning. Let's see back in the Shulchan Aruch. V'chen im haya Taanit chalom eno yachol lilvoto, like we saw in the Gemara. If it's Taanit chalom, you can't exchange it either. We saw that already. Okay. And just back in the Ramah, he says, like you were saying, v'kol sheken she'eno yachol lilvot v'lifroa Taanit tzibur. Certainly, if it's a public fast day, you're not allowed to exchange that. Okay, now I'm going to stop here for now. He gets on to a separate point now, but just because we're a bit running out of time for tonight, I just want to skip to the end of the Ramah here. Look at the very bottom of the page. Ve'im kibel. You see the very bottom, his words? Ve'im kibel? Right there. Ve'im kibel. The bottom of the page there. Ve'im kibel alav Taanit b'mincha. If a person accepted a fast at mincha, tzarich li'tanot, then he would have to fast. Meaning in a scenario where he accepted at mincha, there is a necessity to fulfill it. Yesh omrim, this is what I wanted to get to. Some people say, she'im mitzta'er harbe, if he's very pained b'ta'anito in his fast day, yachol liftoto b'mamon, he could redeem it with money. Meaning instead of finishing the fast, he actually has the ability to pay it off. It's like paying off your debt. How much does it cost? Vehu adin be'ones acher, or if there's some other sort of ones. It's a impossible situation, you could. Venira, but the Rama says, dafka b'gibel alav Taanit ba'alma. Again, that's only in the case like we spoke about before, where he originally accepted in a more general way. 10 days this year. Then you could pay it off, get out of it that way. Avalim kiblo derech neder, but the Mishnah Berurah explains means if he accepted it in a specific way, so then tzarich lekayem nidro, he has to fulfill it. So Rama creates this leniency to some degree, but it's only a leniency that would be allowed if it was more general, 10 days this year. But if in the beginning he said, I'm fasting tomorrow, that was the beginning of his Kabbalah, you wouldn't then be allowed to just pay it off, says the Rama.
What about the first Rav that you say if you can't do it, you don't have to make a Rav?
Right. So we're explaining, well no, he's saying Shmuel the first version. Shmuel the first version, right. Clearly.
If you can't do it, don't do it.
Right, correct. Yeah, we don't seem to be, they don't seem to be asking that way, right, exactly. I mean, which the Gemara itself shows that, meaning in the story it said, don't you know you could push it up, but it doesn't say you can get rid of it. Even the Gemara seems to say that. Okay. Now, there's a lot in the Mishnah Berurah I wanted to see. I guess we'll begin. Let's just begin. You know what, let's stop here. Bezat Hashem, tomorrow night we'll pick up with this halacha because I want to go through the Mishnah Berurah. There's a lot of footnotes here, but let's review before we finish for tonight. Zak Baruch Layla Tov. Baruch Hashem. Yalla.